Medan Hokkien, when Sinkhek preserved Peranakan language. The term Hokkien in Minnan or Southern Fujian language family is the state of Fujian. However, to Southeast Asian Chinese, Hokkien is exclusively Minnan or Southern Fujian. Why is that? Yes, it is quite confusing, but there is a reason for that. In the past, almost all of people from Fujian who came to Southeast Asia prior to early 20th century were all from Minnan or Southern Fujian. Even with the arrival of other Fujianese in 20th century, such as Futonese and Putianese, in Malaya and Nusantara, they were socially categorized as non-Hokkien. Sinkhek is a term to refer to new migrants or coolie. It came from the Hokkien terms sin, which means new, and khek, which means guest. On the opposite spectrum, there's the Peranakans, people who came much earlier and whose culture has been localized or has integrated into local culture. It came from the Malay word anak, which roughly means having descendants, or in English term, born and bred. However, in 18th to 19th century, it exclusively signified Chinese who have mixed with the locals. Before I elaborate on the importance of Chiangchiu Hokkiens in the narrative of Southeast Asia's Chinese diaspora, we would have to know who Chiangchiu Hokkiens were. What we know as Hokkiens in Southeast Asia are people from Southern Fujian or Minnan, particularly those who came from Chiangchiu, Quanzhou Prefecture, Ameng, Xiamen Prefecture, and Jiangjiu, Changzhou Prefecture. Not just regionally different, the challenging terrain of the land and various waves of migration throughout time separated Chuanjiu and Jiangjiu Hokkiens with their unique dialects, with roughly 80% mutual intelligibility, while Xiamen Hokkien is a mixture of the two dialects, is 90% mutually intelligible. Without question, the earliest of those emigrants originated from the Changzhou Prefecture. Although the presence of Chinese traders was quite evident prior to 17th century, such as in coastal Java, Palembang, Aru and Malacca, account of the identities of these people did not come into being until a sizable wave of migration during Portuguese occupation of Malacca and its later Dutch takeover. The rise of diaspora to Malaya, Malaysia and Nusantara, Indonesia, coincided with Manchurian invasion and the advent of Qing dynasty. While Minnan, South and Fujian people were known to be fierce loyalists of Ming dynasty. Such sentiment embodied through the latter founding of Tian Ti Hui, Heaven and Earth Society in Changzhou, Jiangjiu, a religious brotherhood secret society of Ming loyalists. Some of the earliest signs of Chinese origin in the archipelago were recorded on early tombstones, such as Malacca's first Capitan, Te Hong Yong in 1678, who hailed from Longqi, Jiangjiu. Claudine Salmon also recorded 3 tombstones of Chinese Capitan of Banten in Java, dated 1759, 1791, and 1836, including 18 others at Western Pecinan Cemetery. All but one is from Jiangjiu. In Kasunyatan, Banten, 11 tombstones were found dated from 1693 to 1721. All were also of Changjiu origin. Of Kelapa II, Tangerang, 3 out of 5 tombstones dating around 1661 to 1670 were Jiangjiu natives. Stephen Miles also noted the presence of 2 tombstones in Cirebon, 1701 and 1702, were of Longqi Jiangjiu origin. During 17th century, Jiangjiu took over Zhuangjiu as a new trade city with its port, Wegang, located at Haiding. More of Chiangchiu Hokkiens migrated to and through Guangdong with Batavia as their last preference, while Chiangchiu Hokkiens were more likely to head to Batavia as first or second options. Dr. Wang Lianmao and George Souza explained this by comparing diaspora of Gan clan from Qinggang, Chuangjiu Prefecture, with the Lim clan from Haiding, Jiangjiu Prefecture. Several Gan clansmen did migrate to Batavia during mid-16th century, but it was pale comparison to the arrival of 105 Lim clansmen to Batavia from between 1662 to 1774. This was also due to the nature of Chiangchiu as a center of sugarcane production and export. The early Chinese migrants to Batavia were given plots of land to farm on, and particularly to grow cash crops such as sugarcane. Chiangchiu Hokkiens, in comparison, were more attuned to trading and less to agriculture. Joe Phillips stated that Chiangchiu Hokkiens had settled in Malacca before Portuguese came, and even few centuries earlier in Java and Eastern Archipelago. One of the oldest and most distinguished clans known to us in Malacca were the Chis, pioneered by Souza, 1689 to 1752, who was a Chiangchiu Hokkien. Su Bengkong, 1580 to 1644, another of Chiangchiu Hokkien from Tanghua, was the first Chinese capitan of Batavia. Another one from Tanghua was Koleksi, who deceased in 1826, became the first capitan of Penang and its founding fathers, who was also involved in Tian Ti Hui's secret society mentioned previously. Written accounts of interactions with Chiangchiu Hokkiens were listed by Russell Jones. A Chiangchiu Hokkien trader in Bantam in 1615, a Chiangchiu Ancestral Hall in 1754, and a temple found in 1755 by merchants from Tiongtua, Chiangchiu, a Chiangchiu Hokkien Capitan Jina in Cirebon, and Banjarmasin Chinese from Chiangchiu in 1770. There are more examples to be noted, such as the 5 big Hokkien clans of Penang from Haiteng, but we can safely say that the point has been made. Despite of the presence of Chiangchiu Hokkiens and other Chinese such as Cantonese and Teochews during that time, a dominant majority of Chinese who we know today as the 17th to 18th century Peranakans were of Chiangchiu Hokkien origin, and that they would have conversed between each other in Chiangchiu dialect of Hokkien language. Not only most of the elite Peranakans of Penang's heyday were all from Chiangchiu, but they also came from the same county. Wong Yeetuan in Big Five Hokkien families in Penang laid out quite an elaborate exposition of the importance of these families to Malayan and Sumatran trade. By mid-19th century, Penang had established itself as a trading center and distribution port for Northern Malaya's supply circuit, provided rice, sugar, oil, clothing to sprouting tin mines in Perak and Phuket, and tobacco plantations in Delhi, Medan. Penang itself exported coconut oil and sugar from its tens of thousands of hectares of plantations. These Penang elites also made deals with other ethnic alliances and local rulers, controlling monopoly of revenue farms, particularly opium, in its trade regions such as Siam, Kedah, and East Sumatra. The presence of sworn brotherhoods such as Hoseng, which had close connection to Penang's Big Fives, secured their grasp of the cities with Penang's trade circuit, crushing any possible competitors through aggression if needed. Most important of all, Penang was the center of coolie trade. All of the junk ships full of coolies from Guangzhou, mostly ethnic Teochew, Cantonese and Hakka, would disembark in Penang, where they were sold and bought by new contractors to be sent to various settlements. By 1880, Phuket had 50,000 coolies, and by 1890, East Sumatra had more than 53,000 coolies. With the Penang elites having huge control over the coolie trade, mining and revenue farming, Chiangchiu dialect of Hokkien language, mother tongue to the crazy rich Peranakan circle, became the prestige dialect everyone looked up to, despite of being smaller in number compared to the coolies and Chiangchiu Hokkiens. Chiangchiu Hokkien was seen as the ideal lingua franca, where even in Java many of Hokkien loanwords were of Chiangchiu dialect. Let us take feather duster as an example. In Indonesia it is kemoteng, which derived from Chiangchiu Hokkien's ke mo cheng, in contrast to Chiangchiu Hokkien's kui meng tieng. In contrast to Malacca's Baba Malay, which is more of a Malay with sprinkles of Hokkien terms, Penang Hokkien in a way is its mirror image. It is essentially a sub-dialect of Chiangchiu Hokkien with a small dose of Malay vocabularies. It is due to the presence of the coolies and outrageously dominant presence of Sinkhek Chinese in Penang that these elite Peranakan Hokkien evolved into a language that retained more of its Sinitic traits. the language somehow became a compromise between Chiangchiu Hokkien, Malay, and various borrowed words from Sinkhek languages. This new Creole language became the lingua franca between Chinese people in Penang, and through the influence of trade and prestige, other regional elites who desired trade alliances as well as the coolies who were distributed all around North Malaya and East Sumatra began to spread the language wherever they went. This local colourful variant of Chiangchiu Hokkien that was passed down by the Chiangchiu pioneers also became the lingua franca for North Sumatran Chinese, particularly in Medan. According to Dirk Buiskool's thorough exposition on Medan's prominent Chinese, Medan's heyday began during the massive development of tobacco plantations from mid-19th century, where the Dutch relied on Penang's Chinese to provide indentured workers, supplies and commodities, essentially running the local economy. The leading Chinese figures who dominated and monopolized Delhi's economy was Chong brothers, Chong Yonghian and Chong Afi, along with their uncle Chong Fatse, who had then relocated to Penang and Medan from Batavia. The very well-known Penang's Blue Mansion belonged to this tycoon, and all of the Chongs were listed as benefactors for the development of Koleksi Temple in Penang. With these Hakka magnates being influential figures, the prominence of Chiangchiu dialect of Hokkien used in Medan reflected how important Penang was to the economy of Medan. Moreover, there were countless important elite figures who either belonged to Penang's Peranakan elites or who had established their base in Penang, took part and invested in the development of Medan city of Delhi Regency. Ko Jin Tek, 1876 to 1969, was from high up Hai Teng, succeeded Chong Afi as Medan's Mayor de Chinesin. At first, his family often travelled between Penang and Labuan, the old Delhi capital, for business, until his father was appointed the lieutenant of Labuan. He founded Zhonghua Shangye Trading Company and Zhonghua Shangye Bank. Chia Sun Seng, 1848 to 1912, from Pontianak, was the son-in-law of Pontianak's Mayor de Chinesin, who moved to Aceh for a deal with the Dutch on railroad construction, opium, gambling and liquor business. Later promoted as Kapitan de Chinesin in Banda Aceh. He founded Delhi Bank in Medan and later ceased all his business with the Dutch and took on the role of Vice-Consul of Penang. He was an active member of Penang Society, who also co-founded Chonghua School in Penang. Chia Chun Seng's mansion is at 8 Leith Street, just beside Chong Fatse's mansion. Yu Se King, deceased in 1930, Penang-based, dealt with various businesses in Medan, particularly pepper plantation. Ku Hun Yang, 1860 until 1917, was son to the most illustrious and notorious Ku Tian Tek, died in Medan, most likely had some sort of businesses there. Chia Chu Yu, 1841 to 1931, was born in Langkat Regency, North Sumatra, son of Chia Hun Yam, one of the early settlers of Penang. He was involved in opium farming in Delhi, and then later extended his interest to Penang and Thailand. He founded Chinese school at Chia Clan Temple and was a member of Penang Advisory Board and managing director of Kian Guan Insurance Company. Ku Chiao Tiong, 1840 to 1960, was a great-grandson of Kole Huan, first Penang's Kapitan China, and grandson to the founder of Leong San Tong Ku Kong Si. After a successful career in Perak, he moved to Asahan, North Sumatra, where he served 26 years as Asahan's Kapitan. Later, in 1906, he returned to Penang, where he was known as a generous benefactor for education. Kwa Beng Ki, 1872 to 1952, founded Kwan Li Hin Steamship Company and inheritor of coconut estates in Wellesley and Perak, was married to daughter of Chu Chu In, one of Medan's Chinese Kapitan. Ong Bun King, closely connected to Penang's Big Five, was involved in the business of import-export duties, gambling, and opium monopoly in Asahan. The list won't end, but the mystery of how a city concentrated with Sinkhek population, with Chiangchiu Hokkiens majority, suddenly decided to speak a different dialect altogether is now solved. Amongst many things, Medan's livelihood was strongly connected to Penang's, along with the culture and its language. If not, Medan's Hokkien contained more loanwords from Teochew, Cantonese and Mandarin, of which became more and more Indonesian during Suharto's New Order period from 1965 to 1998. Since then, the prestige of Medan's Creole Hokkien as the language of the elites fell from grace. Even worse, it is seen as unsophisticated, uneducated, backwater, low-class language suitable only for backwoods people. It is ironic when many Indonesian Chinese from the capital belittle Medanese Chinese for speaking their apparently Totok language, a term to refer to non-Peranakan Chinese, often derogatively accuse them for being culturally too Chinese to be Indonesians. In the end, Medan's Creole Hokkien language tells a story with endless layers of intermingling through waves of migrations and interaction with people from various languages, cultures, and backgrounds. It is a language that has become local, more local to Medan than the constitutionalized national language. Cherish it and have pride speaking that language that has been used in the archipelago for centuries long.